I hear them coming near, their heart it beats with fear. They say my name in shame. My words they were abused, my healing they misused, and now I stand accused. They came to light the flame, they came to watch me hang and burn my gifts away. But once the smoke's removed, my body's been abused. My soul is watching you. My sisters, we have come, the old and ancient ones, return to bring anew. We won't go in your flame, no, none of us will hang. Our voices we reclaim. The burned witches come, gather everyone, and hear what we do say.
Welcome to Burnt Witches Season 2. I'm Abby Lynn, your host for this limited series podcast where history rises from the ashes and comes back to you in a modern way. Here we discuss all things labeled magic, esoteric, and spiritual. Looking to dispel myths, we meet brave souls who came here to help heal and educate. Now we take our first step back in time with a few facts. But for today's show, I'm actually going to be merging the quick facts and the show dedication together, because once y'all hear this list, we are going to do a collective I'm sorry to all the men and women who perished for these reasons. Good Lord. Okay, so I found this list on the History Collection website. And what they did was they compiled the top 18 reasons people were charged with witchcraft and then persecuted. Number 18, you were a woman. Simple sexism was behind many accusations of black magic, and 3 in 4 people put to death of being witches were female. 17, you looked the part. As witch hunts became commonplace, so-called experts believed they knew what a witch looked like. Number 16, you were over the age of 40. Older women were treated with suspicion, especially if they lived alone. Number 15, you were childless. When children fell ill for no apparent reason, it was blamed on the local childless woman who had cursed them out of jealousy. Number 14, you were sexually progressive. Sex outside of the marriage could get you hanged for being a witch in the 17th century. 13, you talked to yourself. As the Salem witch trials showed, simply muttering under your breath was a sign of black magic. 12, your dress, your clothes. In some witch trials, an individual's refusal to dress like everyone else was seen as sinister. 11, a criminal record. Women of ill repute would often be blamed when things went wrong, and with a little coercion, they just might confess to practicing witchcraft. Guys, that actually happened a lot. Doing research and looking at these witch trials, a lot of these women, they had been tortured. They had been left without food, water for days. So they are already delirious. And then they would ask them for their statement. they would ask them for their confession. So what would you guys do if you had been beaten and not eaten food or water for 6 days, 5 days? Number 10, guilty by association. If you knew or were related to a known witch, you might have found yourself hauled before a grand jury. We wonder why families would turn other family members in. Didn't we see that happen just a few years ago? You were financially independent. Women who didn't rely on a man for support were suspected of being witches. Y'all, we're only halfway done, and I'm dying over this list already. This next one is actually pretty personal for me. Lily, I don't know if this is personal for you or not. Number 8, you were left-handed. According to many traditions, there was something sinister about being left-handed, and it was seen as one obvious sign that someone was a witch. Now, I still know people today that can recall being in Catholic private schools and the nuns would smack their left hand and they weren't allowed to write with that. Can we just discuss the amount of damage that does in the brain when you're hardwired to be left-handed? You certainly can't. I am left-handed. My child is left-handed. I come from a family of left-handed people. Number 7, you had a cat. For centuries, people really did believe that women who lived with cats were in a league with the devil. All right, I'm going to dispel that right now. Y'all, cats are huge protectors. They are protecting you at nighttime. They protect and guard the astral realm. Cats are amazing healers as well. That purr that they emit, pay attention if they jump on you and they start purring in different places because guaranteed they're trying to heal you. Number 6, you were a midwife. Now, we've already dedicated some shows to some women who were midwives. These wise women use their knowledge of herbal medicine to help others give birth safely, but it opened them to accusations of witchcraft. Current fact, I actually just read this a few days ago. Women now opting for home births, this is right now in this day and age, is up 60%. Guys, the shift is absolutely happening right now. Number 5, you had a third nipple. This is actually surprisingly very common. But this was used as a telltale sign that you were a witch. They also looked for moles, the stereotypical little witch mole on the face, which actually is now looked at as a beauty mark. And they looked for birthmarks on the body. And I mean, honestly, guys, they just looked for any reason, and they just didn't like you. 4, you were illiterate. Failure to quote fluently from the Bible was seen as a sign of being possessed by evil. 3, you forgot to throw out old dairy products. Curdled milk was offered as evidence that women were witches. 2, you had a reputation for being argumentative. Nobody liked or trusted an assertive woman. Whew. Can you imagine today if that went on?
Right.
And lastly, number 1, you had made enemies. I mean, isn't that what's going on all the time here? In many cases, people were accused of being witches by neighbors who were bearing grudges and seeking revenge. I must say, though, that one probably makes the most sense because I still think we're going that with like the head of HOA in neighborhoods. But honestly, I'm surprised that the word prophecy didn't come up in that list because some people would receive visions and messages of things to come. Often these were bad things like storms coming. They could sometimes often predict famines coming in. And then, of course, then those people, when it actually happened, were then looked at as, how did you know they must be a witch? And there's a fine line in religious texts between people who prophesized and those who were speaking to the devil. That line that no one can ever really truly explain. I think that if they did, then they went to the 18 reasons we listed above and just picked one of those and went with it. But that actually brings us to our guest today, Lily Nova, my fellow colleague, a cosmic channeler. We both look to the sky and connect with our star family, sharing their messages of connection, healing, and prophetic visions. Lily is an internationally known UFO and space photographer. Lily, I had never heard of astrophotography. I'm so excited to delve into that. Lily is an ET contactee and a best-selling author, y'all. Her book, Contact, seriously, get it, Amazon. And her work can be seen on multiple platforms, and she is world renowned for her images. They've been in the Mirror, LED Bible, the Travel Channel, and I kind of want to say I feel like this is absolutely like your soul mission. I feel like there's an understanding that they allow you to capture them with film and pictures, because I know, myself included, I have tried to take just a couple photos and I always just get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have now stopped even
Right.
attempting. But I am so grateful to have you come on the show today and just share with us your life experiences, the messages that you receive, and being I do want to say, like, it's almost prophecy when we're coming in and we're talking with them. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Abby.
You're so welcome. So I would love to know, how did you, because this is a new thing. You only started this really in 2020. It was this really big awakening. So can you talk us through that? Because you were a dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, my world, I got the crash course in all of this. I went through a little bit of awakening before that, with the passing of my father a few years prior, and that kind of started me, down the journey of personal development and beginning to question more of what's out there. Because after my dad passed, I was like, where is he? I don't believe that he's just gone. I can't believe that. So I started kind of diving into that more, and so more of the kind of the spiritual aspect. But yeah, in 2020, I just the perfect cocktail of events happened. Well, and we're in lockdown too, in the middle of lockdown, and I started doing space photography, so astrophotography, which is just taking photos of the night sky. I've got like a DSLR camera with different lenses and all of that. So I fell in love with it, and I started spending every single night out under the stars. And then a few months into that, I had, and at the time also something happened with my work, and I basically like quit because of some issues, which was heartbreaking. And it was kind of like the perfect cocktail, because then suddenly these UFOs started showing up, and they seemed to be jumping in front of my camera too, wanting me to film them. And nobody believed me after my first very, very close encounter. My closest encounter was my first one. I came very, very close to a ship, and nobody believed me. So then I became determined to capture evidence of it. And then there was kind of this almost like strange mutual understanding with these beings. Like, I felt very curious. I wasn't really afraid. The first experience kind of freaked me out, but I processed that, and then I became more curious, and it seemed to be kind of like an unspoken dialogue between us, and it just progressed from there. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
that's me. So I want to go back to I want to look back in history, because there have been other people, astrologers, and a lot of people that actually ended up becoming persecuted and in charge of witchcraft. A lot of them were astrologers. They were looking to the stars, which I find so ironic, because around the same time period, they were using those same stars as maps to get them to explore the new worlds. Now, what you go out and I always joke with people, yeah, go out and look at the stars, and then you begin to see some of them move.
Yeah.
um, do you feel, because this is how I feel about it, there is a level of being open from the heart space in order for them to come forward. My experience is they would never show themselves if you were in a state of fear and or panic, or you weren't ready for it. I would love to know how you view it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I tried getting other people to see them, and and they're very specific. There are some requirements. It's very frequency specific. I began to find out as they began teaching me. But yeah, originally I was open-minded. I always knew there was something else out there. And yeah, I had yeah, I'd say an open heart. The heart is the key, they say. And then also kind of your frequency, and fear plays a big part into it too. If you're afraid, they're not going to show up. That puts you in a lower frequency. So they'll give you what you're ready for. Sometimes they might be a little extreme just to kind of get your attention. Like the first one was really extreme, but that was to rock my world, and it did. Because then that's all I could think about. I'm like, what is this? What happened? So it makes you dive in deeper.
Do you mind sharing with us what that first experience was?
Yeah. So, I'd spend countless nights out under the stars, like literally all night. I would stay up until almost sunrise a lot of the time, like taking pictures and doing this. And I'd never seen anything. Had never had an experience like that, never seen a UFO. It was just like kind of a random night. I went outside. I felt called to go outside and look up at the stars before going to bed. It was pretty late. It was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And whenever I went out, I stepped out on my front porch, and then I looked up, and I immediately locked eyes with a light in the sky that was really like, it was big and bright, but it's kind of, a little bit out over the neighborhood, a little bit further away. And it was moving, and it was kind of like in a hovering motion. So I began investigating it, and I'm like, okay, there's no blinking lights. It's not a plane. What is that? And then I realized, I think this might be a UFO. So I took my phone out and started recording it. And then suddenly I got this strange feeling, and time seemed to kind of like slow down and stop. And like the energy just became like really thick. And this light at the end of my street, this orange light appeared, and it drew my attention. So I looked over at it. And then that's whenever I noticed something's strange is good. It just felt very surreal. And then I hear wind, and I look over, and a second ship had appeared, and it was much closer. Like I was bending my neck looking up at it. It was like a few houses down, and it was a big like diamond shaped craft. And I could see, yeah, and I could see there was a row of red light and a row of blue-green lights going across it. And it's hard for your brain to kind of register that, because I'd never seen anything like that before. And it seemed to know that, I was questioning what was going on, and it went up, down, side to side very quickly. And then it started coming straight towards me. And I was still recording at the time. I didn't realize that I was recording, but you hear me, and I was like, oh crap. And I take a few steps back, and it literally goes right above my head, and then it disappears. And so that was my first experience.
Do you think that, I would say when you were first starting to explain, it almost feels that the air has somewhat of an electric charge to it.
Yeah.
When they're coming in close into your field. Do you feel, okay, I'm going to ask you this. Did you have any interesting dreams and or visions after that experience? Because I almost feel that the body was processing actually more than what you were aware of at the time, or maybe I should say the subconscious was actually receiving a lot more information.
Oh, for sure. And each time after that, I came to realize later and understand later, every time I saw them, I was receiving tons of downloads and upgrades. And it was rapidly expanding my consciousness without me even realizing it.
Yeah.
I don't recall receiving any dreams or visions. I may have though, but I can't recall any. That started to come in really heavy later. At first it was very physical, them showing up physical, but then there's this very strong emotional feeling and calling, being drawn to them, like they were calling me. And they slowly began communicating with me. and interacting, like showing me that they were intelligent and like answering my calls and things like that. And then when more of a dialogue began and they instructed me to begin meditating, I started receiving my first visions around then. And then it was just like the floodgates were open.
Yeah. I'll give you, I'm remembering something that happened to me in regards to like, they'll answer questions for you, or, you know, like they'll let you know if you're perceiving something as an error. So, I was having we were seeing a lot of craft. And so I went out to the end of my dock with my son, and we were looking up, and I'm like, oh, there's one. I think that was, then I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that is, because it's pitch black. I'm like, maybe that is a plane. I think it's a craft, but maybe that's a plane. And then right as I said that, it went bing, 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 like it zigzagged very quickly back and forth. And then it went right back to his trajectory. And I started laughing. And I said, oh, thank you for letting me know. I see. Yeah, you're definitely a craft. And once I said that, boom, it did this huge power up.
Wow.
And then it just went back to, you know, what it was doing. But they will. So for listeners, that is the level of intelligent interaction that they absolutely can have with you. There's been a few evenings where we can ask like yes or no questions, and we'll be like, all right, power up for yes, or like zigzag for a no. And now those for me are a little bit more rare for them to get that level of interaction, because I always like to remember, and sometimes they remind me, they actually do have like number one, a life. Number two, like they are working.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They
Uh,
can be very specific though, very specific. And they began teaching me that. And the first portion of the journey was for me was very much about the craft and seeing them physically.
Mhm.
And then as I developed my psychic senses, and they taught me how to do that, and they worked with me on that, activating those gifts and abilities, then it became more psychic and so I don't see them as, they don't show up physically as ships as much because they don't need to. And I mean, they've shown me there's ships in the skies all the time. Right before this, I stepped outside with my coffee and just for an instant, I saw a ship hovering right in the field right there. And they're like, hey, you know, but so as you kind of develop those senses, you can kind of tune in because they're cloaked a lot of the time. But yeah, they can be super specific and it's really fun. You can ask them and it's instant because it's telepathy and we're all connected through consciousness. So they can literally react to your thoughts instantly. It's amazing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it truly is mind blowing. And I do resonate 100%. You feel them before you see them. And it's almost as though, I'm not saying involuntary, but because it's, you know, we're always free will, they would never try to take control of you ever, but it's almost a heart pull to look up when
Yeah.
they're right there. You're like, and like, I mean, I literally will breathe and literally just like bring my chin up because it's like I can just feel them. And then I always smile and I go, I see you. Like I see, and then I always say, I feel you.
Mhm.
And it is a beautiful thing. And the cloaking, just for you guys at home too, they can cloak themselves to look like a jet, a plane. And I was out for a walk. This is actually just a couple weeks ago, and I was just walking and I could feel, oh, there's like, it's like they just came into my area. And I go, oh, I feel you. And I look up, and then just out of nowhere, there is a plane, just, you know, an average plane. And I'm like, oh no, that is like, come on, guys, seriously. And I stopped walking and I really looked at it, and I could see this energy ball all around it emanating. It was almost had like a reddish line around the edge of it. And I'm like, seriously, you're like, why are you cloaking?
Yeah.
And so I just said, like, I can see you. And then I just went on my walk. But it's interesting. I want to ask you, with all of you know, we've been giving all of this great evidence of yes, they are in the sky, and yes, we can see them. But what is the most, I'm going to say, how has it benefited you? And what's the most amount of like magic it's brought into your life?
Oh my goodness. It's I almost get like emotional thinking about it. Um, so it's changed everything. They have helped me. I've always been on like this personal development journey towards self-actualization. I've always been fascinated by the idea of self-actualization. And now with my interactions with them, I realized that that was possible. And that was part of my journey. So self-actualization is reaching your highest potential. And it goes so much deeper than that, because as I began communicating with them, they started showing me all of these things, like what our minds can do, what magic is within the cells of our body, our DNA. DNA was a really big focus that they began teaching me. You know, scientists say that 95% of our DNA is junk DNA. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. And then they taught me that that's far from the case. It's just dormant and we can activate it. And then you can activate all of these kind of special gifts and abilities. But also, as you begin doing that, manifestation can become instant. They actually started teaching me a lot about that. So I would watch just kind of like miracles happening. And kind of dancing with the universe, the intelligent responses from the universe. You know, they signs from source. They really taught me a lot about spirituality. You know, you see a hawk or an owl or a deer or something like that. The synchronicities, the numbers, all of those things would happen, and so it's enhanced my life a lot, and they've helped me with healing a lot too, a lot of healing. And then it just, as you release that baggage, you become happier, healthier, and life is just more exciting and magical.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up healing.
Yeah. Big part.
It's a huge part. You know, sometimes people ask me, and I don't know if you get this question. I'd imagine you do. When you come out and begin to share this type of information, number one, you can start to get somewhat of a, I really don't like the word target. I don't like that at all. But let's just say that you put a little beacon around you. Let's call it that.
Mm.
And it also, just for other people, it gives them, it's something easy that they can almost poke fun at you or dismiss you. Actually, it's just a dismissing. And it would have been easier for me probably to just never share what I was getting. But the level of healing that they brought to me in my life, I spoke back to them. And when I say them, it's my family. It genuinely is my family. And guys, listeners at home, the majority of visitations that you are seeing and coming in are family. And when I say family, it's not always about blood. It's, you know, close friends, best friends. That to me is family as well. But they brought in a level of healing that I got an aspect of my life back. And I didn't even ask them to do it.
Right.
They just did it. And so when that happened, I looked back at them and I said, I will spend my life always sharing, defending, and bringing this forth, this knowledge. And I do not care about what type of beacons come in around me. And you know, you were glitching a little bit when you were talking, especially about like turning on the DNA, the manifestation. Listeners, you guys, this is Lily and I's third attempt at recording this. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's definitely, you know, a couple aspects where you know, they may not want some of this information to be shared, but this is the whole point of this entire podcast, is to make sure that this information gets out there.
Yeah. It's very liberating. Freedom, really. And with the healing aspect, they showed me a love. I felt love from them that I've never felt before in my life.
Yeah.
Like incredibly healing. You feel that love and then you just want more of it. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's healing. That's what love is. And that's possible for everybody. Yeah, it's possible for everybody. So I agree. Like once I felt that, I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to, people will be so much happier. Life would be so different. and we just have so much potential of how, and yeah, everything can just be so much more beautiful and simpler and easier. So they've really helped me with that, and I agree with that. That's it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Especially with everything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
We're experiencing a huge shift in consciousness, and that's where we're heading. So they are guides and teachers and family, literally. Yeah, exactly. Family.
It's a huge shift. And I'm so happy that you brought in the word love to this. They showed me how we are very limited in the English language because we don't have truly another word to expand upon the levels of love. And it wasn't until I began working with them and being in their energy that you feel that. It almost takes the expansiveness that comes into your being when you are telepathically conversing with them, when you are channeling them, when you are allowing them, because they want to come through you to offer healing. Until you step into that, you can't truly grasp the expansiveness of their loving energy.
Yeah.
And it is the most beautiful compassion that it truly is. It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they helped me to learn to love myself too. And that's that's a big, a big issue that a lot of people, probably, I'd say probably all of society deals with, that, and compassion for yourself. They showed me, that level of love, that it just began to heal everything, and all the BS just began to dissolve.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And to go forward with what you mentioned a moment ago about what we're shifting into.
Mhm.
And when we do look at prophecy and prophetic messages, and I mean, I mentioned in the beginning, these were, for those who struggle, half the Bible that we know today, I have my own feelings about those, but I'll leave that elsewhere, came from, self-admittedly, within that book, came from prophecy. I mean, I was just telling my kids earlier, I'm like, well, Moses went up to the mountain and he came back down with these tablets of, saying that he spoke to God. Well, and there are also many beautiful artistic works of art where you can see literally craft above there. And there is so many references to star beings, light beings. Now, a lot of those got lost in translation because they were literally translated in the wrong way, bringing it down into English, New World English. So they openly also spoke, they worked with star beings coming down and helping, because again, they were shifting then, and we're shifting again into this higher consciousness.
Yeah.
And what would you say lately, Lily, is probably the biggest theme? What's just the overall theme that you've been getting lately?
Well, everything's interconnected. It's all connected. And all of the things that, we hear about throughout history, like it's all connected. And the ETs have played a large role uh, in humanity's origins, our history, and what's to come. The theme that I've been seeing lately, so then those kind of different aspects begin to make sense. Like you've got like ancient Egypt, all of these ancient sites that are actually deeply connected, and with the ETs and all of that. Like these things are starting to come to light, and people are starting to become aware of this, like the existence of Atlantis and all of that, and in the advanced technology that was used to create these sites. So there's like all different this shift in consciousness is happening on so many different levels and from so many different angles. Like that's an aspect of it. Exposing a lot of the corruption. A lot of things are just coming to light that have been keeping us down and holding us from our potential. Healing all of the wounds, the ancestral wounds, past lifetime wounds, so that we can raise our frequency and release that baggage. And it's very spiritual. It's like what I've came to learn is that it really is like a spiritual war. There really is a spiritual war happening at the same time. So it's happening on so many levels. And then we've got the galactics who are helping to clean up a lot of this stuff too. And then we're also doing it energetically. And then you've got angels and archangels and all of these other beings, and it's all interconnected. So yeah, a lot is coming to light right now. A lot is because a lot of things have been hidden from us. So that's kind of the one of the major themes, if that makes sense.
I've been, they've called it a spiritual war for so many years now. And I always like to remind people they are having a massive war themselves. And I was shown years ago, we think that we have problems here. It's also in other areas of our universe.
As above, so below.
100%. And I remember when I saw that, because I had just been so focused on helping and healing here, just our planet. And you're like, why aren't you doing more? Like, there's this and this and this and this. And they finally pushed back gently, like, we are doing this everywhere. And when they shared that with me, I saw this like huge, intricate plan that, and there's also, there are unprecedented times coming here where we are seeing things that we've never seen before. They are also seeing things. I remember I had one message come through, and it wasn't even a message, a vision. And look, my thing's starting to get disordered. All of the stargates, every single stargate, and now to let you guys know, and Lily, I'm sure you know this as well, they are governed by different bodies, the stargates, to be able to move, right? So just think of, you getting permission to be able to fly into a different country, right? So like these are be monitored similar. They all aligned and agreed, which you can never get them to agree on everything across the board, at the same exact time, to shut down every single stargate. Because there were certain beings that were trying to flee and move. And to get all of them at the same exact time to shut them down it was a brief window. It wasn't a long time. It was a brief window, was huge and massive win. Now, this was years ago. Years ago, but seeing and understanding that we're coming in a place where so many beings and so many people are joining together. And it's this great, I'm hearing like the great unifier. Like we are coming into this age of great unification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's happening on so many different levels. So it's much bigger than we could ever even imagine, I feel like. Very, very convoluted universe is a good way to put it.
Dolores Cannon, I'm telling you what.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, the aspect of healing is so important. Gaia is healing herself. And as intuitives, as healers, we tap into the collective, and you can feel that, right? When it's almost like she's doing these big releases from time to time.
Yeah.
You just get slammed with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you help her to transmute those.
Right. Yeah, that's been a big focus for me this summer, has been on grid work and just cleaning up, doing a lot of cleanup. So I just did a 33-day trip, and we went to different kind of like sacred sites and energetic sites. We were doing tons of work helping to heal the earth. So that the earth can ascend, preparing the earth to for the ascension.
Yeah. Now you guys listening, Lily hosts retreats, and I know that you're doing one in the middle of October in Sedona. Mm-hmm. But you did a massive one in Shasta in July. Can you share anything about that experience? And I want to put this out there just before you share, for those listening. It is retreats and coming and holding space with others, especially in these sacred sites, it's not just, some people think, oh, that's just like, do I want to do that for my vacation? Y'all, it's when Lily talked about this quote unquote junk DNA, when we go into these sites, we anchor into that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it can help us turn that on. So I'm now going to turn it over to you. Like this is why these retreats are very beneficial.
Right. Oh my goodness. It exceeded my expectations. It was a very, very magical experience in Mount Shasta. And Mount Shasta is known as a very, one of the chakra centers of the planet, very, very important site in one of the top meeting places for the galactics and spiritual beings in Mount Shasta. It's in Northern California. The energy there is insane. It blew me away. I experienced so many upgrades and revelations and transformations. I did not come back the same person, and I'm still integrating it. And I've been back for almost a month now. It does unlock something in you. It changes you. And then also just being in those high energy places, I was receiving kind of like downloads and revelations and psychic information and healing, spontaneous healings like never before. It's just amplified. So being in those high energy spots is fantastic, and it definitely it unlocks part of you. They taught me that the land, certain parts of the land, they have keys for you to unlock you, and then you also carry keys to help the land. It's like a mutual beneficial thing. So that was very magical. We explored these different sites. We saw tons of ships. I've got a lot of really, really great footage. Had a lot of experiences with the inner earth beings, the Lemurians and Atlantean descendants. That was very magical. They're very beautiful people. And that just blew me away too. Nothing beats it. Really, nothing beats it. So it was a 4-day, I was there for almost 20 days, but the retreat was 4 days, and we just went to all these different sites and did all these kind of like channelings, healings, sound healings, and we saw ships every night. I didn't bring my good camera because now I like to stay more present, and I don't worry about capturing footage so much, but I was kind of kicking myself in the butt because the level of activity that we saw was insane, things that I've never seen before. And I've seen a lot of ships and weird things. So that was cool. In one ceremony I'd like to share, on the last day, we went up near the top of the mountain and we did like a group circle. Somebody was channeling light language, and we just had a very beautiful experience. And the energy was so crazy from this, that literally all of the power afterwards, all the power went out in Shasta for an hour. And we were told that we literally like shifted the timeline, and it was like a very good thing. So the level of work that you can do for the good of the planet at those high energy spots it's just inconceivable.
It truly is. And just the level of shifting within yourself that you do at those, and also you begin to meet soul family,
Yes.
And you're, before we come down here, we make a plan. And but it's just about saying yes and going to those areas. And you just never know when you are going to run across someone that on such a deep soul remembrance. It's incredible. Lily, I was on your podcast a few months ago, and I had never really spoken to you before. And I popped on, and it was just, I just did this big channel before I had to get it out before we even record the podcast. And I know from that, we know each other. Like, I know that we do this work. We've done this work before.
Right.
And I'm so excited. Lily and I are both going to Egypt together. I cannot wait to go and see those ships. I'm hosting my retreat. And if any of you guys listening would love to go to Lily's retreats whenever she decides to do those in the future, absolutely send her an email. Have her start a wait list for just whatever she agrees to do. I myself know I'm going to Shasta with her next year.
Yeah, I know for sure I'm gonna do Shasta next year in July again, and then I just added we're gonna do Sedona again in spring.
It's fabulous.
Yeah,
It's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, oh my God, it's the level of transformation. Like I said, like we came back different people, completely different people. Things are shifting in my life. Opportunities are coming up, and then on the grid work again, real quick, the ETs and the galactics shared with me just how important with the shift of what's happening on Earth right now, to go to get together and do these types of things. We're literally creating the new Earth.
Absolutely. I received the same exact information. I know that so many of us are naturally being pulled and drawn to go to these grid points, these sacred sites. And you guys, I mean, they're sacred sites for a reason. It's it's so funny because I feel like to go forward, we're going back.
Yeah.
And we're going back to the original coding of what we are. And I'm not talking about like 15th century, y'all. I'm talking about way before the original time. And we're going back to that blueprint, the original blueprint that it was meant to be here, the divine right of beautiful Gaia.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're helping shift her up.
Yeah. And we're remembering.
remembering. Yes, we're turning on all of that DNA. And this is things. So Lily, I know that you have a beautiful show and you bring in those light codes and you bring in channeling. And so much of that is awakening those who listen to it. I mean, you can begin to do this work, you guys, at home. And just even by the power of manifestation and mantras and claiming it, calling yourself back. So for me, it's like it's calling it back up, right? So some of it has been lost through amnesia. When we cross the veil to come here, so much of what we are just gets forgotten through this amnesic layer. And so we're bringing back our birthright. I don't believe it was supposed to be like that. I believe that was artificially put there, that amnesia of being on this planet, because this is one of the beautiful healing planets. I was told once there are 7 Edens within our universe, and this is one of them. And this is a planet where souls were originally supposed to come here to heal, to rest, to have those respite lifetimes. And it's very like elvish fairy realm, coming and becoming one with nature and living with the cycles and living of the land, not on the land. And this was one of those few planets, and then it got hijacked and kind of got destroyed. But if you can remove all that programming, you see the vast beauty of her.
Yeah.
The mountains, the oceans, the seas, the rivers, the desert. I mean, you name it, the soul, I'm getting goosey, the soul can experience it here. And we are reclaiming that for her.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We really live on a very beautiful planet.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to see, even in the States. If you live in the States, just we traveled to all these different locations. We camped for half of it, and just connecting with the land and the energies in all these different places. It's amazing. So there's even places, I'm sure, wherever the listeners are, you could look up, places near you to go, or take a few hour trip or whatever, and really connecting with the land. We have a very beautiful planet.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. Lily, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I see you for this. So honored to know you in this lifetime. You guys, again, her book, Contact, it's incredible. I mean, it's so thick. I'm like amazing. It's amazing. And it's all of her stories. It's her experience stories. It's her personal journey. How can everyone get a hold of you, find you?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you're doing too. I know we're going to have fantastic time working and collaborating together. People can find me I'm pretty active on YouTube. I do live activations, channeled activations, and other videos, and do have some podcasts on YouTube as well. The name is Lily Nova Starseed, and then my website is lilynovacontact.com, and then you can find me everywhere else through the websites, and yeah.
You guys, I will have all those links down below. Again, if you want to hear more of Burnt Witches, make sure to like and subscribe. I know I just do this for the month of October every year, but I'm going to continue bringing this. And I always like to end the show with this poem. The ashes going higher, the smoke filling the sky. Oh, you didn't see my ancestors coming from me behind. As you light the flame of fear, burning away the inner voice rumbling near. Oh, you thought turning us to dust, we'd lay in the ground, burying your lust. But a fire burns in our blood, memories drum through our veins. We are the burnt witches returned, the ones you thought you burned away. But our voices rise together in echo from a deep place you know. Our hearts, they do not tremble. We've come to awaken and help you grow. So keep tuning in, guys. Thanks so much. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.